What's up, everybody? Let's get one thing right, straight from the start. I am not loyal to party or person. I'm loyal to my constitutional values. That said, I voted Democrat and I voted Republican over my course of my voting career. As much as I'd like for Kari Lake to win this lawsuit, I'm not sure we're going to get there. But yesterday was amazing. I mean, we flat out caught a guy, I believe, perjured himself on the stand and he got caught. So I'm going to show that to you. And I'm going to show you two pieces of testimony that I think were important in this trial. And what you have to remember is, even if they can prove that this happened, what Kari Lake's team has to prove that it happened because of malfeasance and malicious intent. So somebody had to plan it, and they got to prove that somebody planned it. And I'm not sure they got there in the courtroom. Did they get there in the court of public opinion? I think so. But the remedy that the court, that Kari Lake's team is asking for is huge. And even if they get that judge over that 51%, and if they do, he should apply some sort of remedy. The remedy that's being asked for is to overturn an election. And that's a big deal. So, did we get there in the court of law? I don't know. Did we get there in the court of public opinion? I think what you're about to watch will speak for itself. So, having said that, I'm going to pop in just a couple of times here and want you to watch it. Watch for yourself. And I want you to watch the government's testimony versus what I actually recorded live at the site they're talking about.
Is there any way, in your opinion, for a 19-inch ballot image to be projected on a 20-inch ballot by accident?
No, sir.
Why not?
Because the settings and the configurations and the procedures that are used cannot allow that. These are not a bump up against the printer and the settings change. There are security configurations. I've reviewed the evidence, and the printers are configured via script, which by any large organization that has to do multiple systems is a standard. This takes away the human error of somebody miscoding in the instructions either on the printer.
That right there is a Maricopa County election official admitting during a sworn testimony that the only way these ballots could have been misprinted is with somebody who has security access to the printer manually altering the code to print ballots incorrectly. Let's go back a little bit because I actually missed some context. So apparently the issue why ballots were being rejected by the ballot readers on election day wasn't because the machines themselves were malfunctioning. It was actually because the ballots themselves were printed incorrectly. Here's an example of what I'm talking about. On the left side, you have a 19-inch ballot. On the right side, you have a 20-inch ballot. The paper itself is 20 inches or 21 inches, maybe 20 and a half. As you can see, there's some extra space on the top and the bottom. However, the 19-inch ballot has extra padding, so to speak, more extra paper, a thicker paper frame surrounding the actual ballot content. So you have the same size paper on both sides, but the actual printed ballot on the left is a 19-inch ballot. The one on the right is a 20-inch ballot. The tabulator wasn't reading the 19-inch ballots because all the vote markings were in the wrong place, obviously, if you scale down the resolution. So Maricopa County is now confirming that this was the issue, and they're also confirming that the printing of these ballots could not have been done accidentally. That right there is huge because it basically supports the claim that Kari Lake is making, that an individual's actions were responsible for the issues on election day. And the last update that I gave you guys was Kari Lake was given 150 ballots of every single kind to forensically analyze, and here were the results. 48 of 113 ballots reviewed during our examination were 19-inch ballots produced on 20-inch paper. This 1-inch discrepancy causing the mass rejection of these votes as they were attempted to be read through the tabulators.
You've heard previous testimony. Were you here for Mr. Jarrett's testimony?
Yes, sir, I was.
And did you hear Mr. Jarrett testify that in the November 2022 general election, a 20-inch ballot was used?
Yes, sir, I did.
Would a 19-inch ballot image projected on a 20-inch piece of paper used in the election in Maricopa for November 2022 have when it was placed into one of these vote center tabulators?
It would cause it to be rejected.
And all of this is now confirmed. Now the question is, was it done purposely, and was it done to disenfranchise Republican voters? Because clearly the strategy for Kari Lake voters was to show up big on election day. Everybody knew that. That was the public Republican strategy. And so was election day voting sabotaged? That right there is the key premise. That is the claim that Kari Lake is making through her election. And look, it's not a crazy claim.
Okay, so we have a printer issue. Notice how that guy handled himself. Notice the conviction in his opinion of his research. All right, now let's watch Katie Hobbs' side. We just heard from Kari Lake's side. Let's watch from Katie Hobbs' side and see how he handles himself, especially on cross-examination. That's interesting.
Did you ever become aware of multiple reports at various vote centers in Maricopa County where wait times exceeded 2 hours?
Exceeded 2 hours? No.
You were not aware of that?
Our data shows that we had some voting locations approaching 2 hours, not exceeding.
Even at some locations approaching 2 hours, would you consider that a disruption?
That's why we post wait times on our website, which was highly publicized and advertised. And all of those locations, we had close by locations. So, for example, Biltmore was approaching 2 hours in the last hour of the voting day. With 2 miles away at Faith Lutheran, there was a voting location that had a 1 minute wait time. During that same time, the longest time, that last hour of the day. So there were options for voters to be able to participate, even at those other voting locations.
What are you basing the accuracy of the reported wait times on?
On information that poll workers return to us. So it's the number of voters in line at that point in time. They report those every 15 minutes, and then we can calculate the wait time based on how long it would take someone to check in at a voting location.
So if those poll workers were testifying under oath of wait times exceeding 2 hours at multiple locations, how would that square with what the county was reporting on its system? Are they just mistaken, or
People can make estimates, but unless they're actually timing them, they could be inaccurate. Our wait times are based off exactly how long it takes a voter to check in through that process, have a ballot printed, and based off those numbers of voters that are standing in line at that point in time.
And how is that figure calculated? When you say it's based off that number, how do you calculate it?
Based off prior elections, and so we can gauge how long it takes a voter to get checked in. Then we can also see how many voters are checking in at a voting location throughout the day.
Okay. So you're basing the wait time calculation on prior elections, not on what's actually happening on scene at the day of election?
Based on how quickly a voter can check in through that process. That's correct.
Sir, I want to go back to the earlier question about the 19-inch ballot image being placed on a 20-inch paper. Did you hear of any reports of that occurring in the 2022 general election?
I did not.
If that occurred, would that be a failure of Maricopa County's election process?
I'm not aware of it occurring, and I'd be surprised if there was a ballot on demand printer that had a 19-inch ballot on it.
Okay. I understand that, sir. But
And the reason why is we did not design a 2022 general election on a 19-inch ballot. That ballot does not exist. The only ballot that exists is a 20-inch ballot.
And when you say we designed, Who designed the ballot? Is that outsourced to another company, or is that done in-house by Maricopa?
In-house by Maricopa County staff.
What department would that staff fall under? Is there a specific name for it?
Our ballot tabulation team, so it reports to me.
And do you maintain records as to the ballot definition that was created for the 2022 general election?
Yes, we have records of all the ballots that were designed.
And so I'll go back to my question again. If a 19-inch ballot image was put on a 20-inch paper in the 2022 general election, would that be a failure of your election process?
It would, if something like that happened, which I don't know how it would, yes, it would have been a mistake.
Could that have also been a deliberate act?
Again, you're asking me to speculate about things that I have no knowledge of occurring. So I don't know if it could have been a deliberate act or not. I don't believe that that occurred.
How involved are you in creating the ballot definition?
So my team does, and then I overview it, and I'll review examples of those.
Thank you, Mr. Jarrett. Don't have any further questions at this time.
Okay, did he baffle you with bullshit or wow you with wisdom? I choose A. So, now we're going to move on to cross-examination. Listen to the cracking voice. Look at the body language change. It's amazing.
Mr. Jarrett, you recall your testimony yesterday?
Yes, I do.
And yesterday you testified that a 19-inch ballot image being imprinted on a 20-inch ballot did not happen in the 2022 general election. Did you recall that?
Yes, I recall that there was not a 19 ballot definition in the 2022 general election.
But that wasn't my question, sir. I asked you specifically about a 19-inch ballot image being imprinted on a 20-inch piece of paper. So are you changing your testimony now with respect to that?
No, I'm not. I don't know the exact measurements of a fit to paper printing. I know that it just creates a slightly smaller image of a 20-inch image on a 20-inch paper ballot.
Slightly smaller image. How come you didn't mention that yesterday?
I wasn't asked about that.
Well, I was asking you, is 19 inches smaller than 20 inches? It is, isn't it? Sure.
Yes.
So when I said, asked you questions about a 19-inch ballot image being imprinted on a 20-inch piece of paper, and you denied that that happened in the 2022 general election, did you not think it would be relevant to say, hey, by the way, there was this print image issue that we discovered?
Your Honor, I object. The counsel is misstating Mr. Jarrett's testimony from yesterday.
Okay. Once again, if he's able to understand the question and answer it, he can do so. If you don't understand it or you need it rephrased, you can do that as well, Mr. Jarrett. If you're able to answer, please do so.
What I recall from yesterday's questioning was that there was a 19-inch definition, which that did not occur, ballot definition.
So if your testimony reflects my question, or strike that, if the back and forth between our question and answer shows me asking you specifically about a 19-inch ballot image being printed on a 20-inch piece of paper, you are now saying that you interpreted that as a ballot definition issue?
Yes, that's correct.
And you wouldn't think it would be relevant, even in that circumstance, to say, hey, we learned about this fit to print issue. Did you know about the fit? When did you learn about this fit to print issue?
When we started doing the audit reconciliation of those DOR 3 ballots, we identified some of those ballots had then a fit to paper issue.
And when was that?
I don't remember the exact dates, but a few days after Election Day.
And who told you about that?
Our ballot tabulation team and our audit review team that was then doing the inspection of the door 3 ballots.
So, and I believe your testimony was that you discovered this only in 3 vote center locations, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So, did you look at the other locations to see if this so-called fit-to-print issue arose at other locations?
We looked at all the door 3 misread ballots that were in the secure door 3, and we didn't identify any of those that a fit to paper issue.
Fit to paper issue. So if evidence showed up that there was a 19-inch ballot imprinted on a 20-inch piece of paper out of the Anthem location, that's not one of the locations that you identified, is it?
I did not identify that from Anthem.
When did this so-called adjustment to the printer settings happen on Election Day that gave rise to this fit-to-print issue?
I don't have the specific time, but it was during the course of Election Day.
And was this fit-to-print issue, how did those settings get changed? Was it at the direction of somebody from Maricopa or just somebody on their own doing it?
It was not at the direction of anyone from Maricopa County.
So was the change in the settings in response to tabulator issues?
So we believe, at least at one of the sites, one of the technicians was attempting to troubleshoot and then made that change.
So if other sites, if the tabulator issues arose immediately before any technician made any changes to the print settings, then your theory of a fit-to-print issue would not be correct. Yes?
No, I disagree.
So when would the changes to the printer settings have been made?
So the reason I know it didn't occur prior is because during our test prints, prior to Election Day, there was no identified fit-to-paper setting issue.
And when was that?
We do that during when we're setting up each voting location. We run test prints on all of the printers.
And how would you know that it didn't arise?
It was never reported back through our chain of custody from the technicians to up to me, which they would have reported that to me.
Why do you think they would have reported it to you?
Because I meet with the team routinely and throughout the day, and I've even asked them subsequently, and they've said that they never identified it during any of the setups.
So did you have a meeting with all these technicians and ask them this question?
I had a meeting with our command center
Okay.
teams.
Were all the technicians asked about this fit-to-print issue?
I don't know if all the technicians were.
Is there any documentation of any inquiry about this fit-to-print issue?
I don't know if there's any documentation.
So you said you performed a root cause analysis to determine how these problems arose on Election Day?
We're in the process of performing a root cause analysis.
And as part of that root cause analysis, you determined that there was this fit-to-print issue in 3 locations, correct?
That's correct.
Is there any documentation preceding yesterday's testimony that identifies this issue?
As part of, yes, there is some documentation.
What documentation?
So some of our audit reconciliation forms that identified the 3 locations.
And what do those audit reconciliation forms show?
They show the number of check-ins from voting locations. They show the number of door 3 ballots and then notes based off our audit reconciliation.
Okay. Does it say fit-to-print issue was the cause or words to that effect on those forms?
It actually is using the term shrink to fit, not fit to
Shrink to fit. Shrink to fit. And was that determined to be the cause, or is that was that an assumption as a possibility?
It was determined to be the cause for those 3 locations, for the ones that wouldn't be read at the voting location and then be read at central count.
And again, you did not mention this in your testimony yesterday, did you?
I did not.
Did you publish anywhere that there was this shrink to fit issue after the election?
We've not.
So you didn't tell the public, hey, we've discovered, I mean, you're performing a root cause analysis and you find out that there was this shrink to fit issue that gave rise to problems in the tabulators, and you did not inform the public about this.
We're still in the process of our root cause analysis.
Okay. With respect to the chain of custody issues that you testified to, does Maricopa County know the exact number of ballots that come in, election day ballots, not early vote ballots? Do they know the number of ballots that come in to MTech on election day? The exact number?
Through our memory cards, or what are read in from those memory cards, we have an accounting for what gets reported.
And how are those memory cards generated with the ballots? Where do the numbers come from on them?
From our vote center tabulators, those on-site tabulators. So every ballot that gets read into a vote center tabulator gets logged, and